right? You'll also see markets, things stacked up, and is disease coming out of this thing or not? But I mean, the chances are possibly.
Is disease? I mean, you said you researched it, so you tell me, is disease coming up out of that? Because we know that disease is coming up out of these wet markets.
The thing with the the piece with the piece with the wet markets is, and I explained this in a follow-up in another live that I did, right? The people think that anything that happens in the wet markets, disease is coming out of there. That's not necessarily true. Every animal in there doesn't have a virus, right? It may be one dude who ate this one infected thing and then that turned into such and such and such and such, but everything else in there is probably solid. You don't know, right? And if that was the case, these wet markets been around for decades, maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. People been eating all that wild shit, right? And if that was the case, if that was the case with people's logic, then every time I said that the world would be dead, because every time everybody ate some wild shit there, that means they would have caught some type of new flu disease, and they would have came out and gave it to everybody else. So that means everybody who went to that market ate anything out of that market ever, right? We'd have 100,000 flus hitting the world right now instead of one. Well, instead of the COVID-19 piece, right? And let's not get it confused. There's wild diseases jumping off in Africa, right? It just so happens, right, that on the world scene right now, we have something coming out of China. But we had Ebola not too long ago.
Okay. And how do we come upon Ebola?
I don't know how we came upon Ebola.
What about HIV?
What about HIV?
Okay. I'm just saying, how do we come upon these diseases, or should I say, how did they come upon us?
I mean, most diseases, if you do the research,
was it because of the diet in Africa, or not? Did SARS come out of China?
Well, I think if you take into consideration, if you're just gonna say disease, and let's just say all diseases, bacteria, pathogens, parasites, viruses, right? It's all different kinds, right? All of them come through mostly diet, things you eat or drink. Right? Where do they start? Most of the viruses, at least the viruses that we're dealing with, H1N1, swine flu, it's called swine flu for a reason, because it starts in pigs, right? Most of the viruses come from ducks or waterborne fowl, as they say, migratory birds, right? So you eat that, I mean, and they happen to be sick, you get it. Bats are considered to be great mixing pots for viruses, right? So if you eat a bat, I mean, you might eat one bat and be straight. You eat this other bat who is sick, then you got XYZ. People who have like things like parasites and pathogens comes from them drinking dirty water, right? Things like cholera, things like that comes from drinking like water that's bad. You take something like malaria. Malaria comes from mosquitoes.
Okay. Right?
But where do mosquitoes get it from? They have to bite something. They get blood from something. Right? So a majority of diseases that we deal with, they come from animals and our relationship to animals, whether we're eating them, we're cohabitating with them, right? We're drinking from the same water that they just took a shit in, right? It can be all traced back very easily.
Right. I hear you. But as far as the post you put up, you know what I'm saying? You used voodoo specifically.
Yeah.
And, I just felt like that's a religion. And I feel like that's a little different from what's going on in China.
I mean, it is different. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is different. Like that, depending on what the priest or the priestess tells you to do with that when they make whatever they're going to make for you. Again, some of it is medicine, right? What do you do with medicine, right? Normally you take it. You put it in your body, or you put it on your body. You put it near your body, right? Sometimes it depends on what you're asking the priest or the priestess for, and they're going to make this thing for you. They send you to that market to go buy XYZ, and you bring it back to them, and they make this thing for you, right? So It's not that far of a stretch, right? As you get to mixing this monkey head with this cow foot, with this bat wing, with this cheetah face, not to belittle it or anything, but you see that's what's there, right? You don't know what you cooking up and concocting and moving around.
But we're not eating it.
You might be eating it. You might be putting it in contact with your body. We don't know. Right?
But we're not eating it. What I'm saying is we're not turning it into a meal. You understand what I'm saying?
We don't. That's the thing. We don't know that. It depends on what that priestess tells you to do with it. You get what I'm saying? Like in the wet markets, don't get me wrong. In the wet markets, people are going and they might be eating a snake sandwich because they feel like eating some snake. Or eat this place you can go and eat a lion if you want to. You want to get real funky, right? You eat whatever's on this planet. There's a place where you can go and eat it, right?
Okay.
In a few different places, right? Like you said, possums. They eat possum here, right? People shoot a raccoon and before you know it, it's on the barbecue grill in America, right?
I know
so. It's not that wild of a thing to say, but also people eat certain things from medicinal properties, right? People eat wild shit because it make your dick big, or people will tell you to eat some ingest this because it is going to cure your cancer. The issue with the rhinos, why they catching the rhinos and chopping the horns off, is to make like powders for people to eat because the horn represents fertility, so they'll chop that shit up and eat it. You know, same thing with snakes, same thing with all kinds of shit. People eat it because they feel that the way it looks, if I eat it, I'm gonna have the same thing. Right? So the point of it was, again, I could have brought up
that Chinese people shouldn't be looked at a certain way.
That's the thing.
Or however you put it.
Here's the piece. The overall message is people do weird shit.
They do.
We do too, to the extreme. So if you think that Chinese shit is extreme, like there's some places in Africa where people do weird extreme shit. Not just to be clear, there's places in Togo and Benin that do weird shit, right? So don't get before you get racist, right? Before you take up the banner of like these fucking
I don't
Chinese
really think we could be. I don't think we could be racist though. You know what I'm saying? As black men, I don't feel we could be racist. You know?
I just had this conversation with a dude. That's impossible.
I'm just saying. We don't got to go down that road, but I don't feel like we could be racist as black men. You know what I'm saying?
Anything with a brain can be racist. Racist just
prejudice maybe, but not racist.
Prejudice is different.
Racism dealing more with power. You understand what I'm saying?
I mean, but that's political then.
There's plenty of racism in politics. Like
power is a political argument. It's not a race argument. There's plenty of black people in power.
Okay. But there's plenty of racism in power as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. It's a lot of everything and everywhere, right? But anyway, like you said, we won't divert to that too deeply because it's going.
Black people in politics. Go ahead.
But in terms of this, it was look, people do weird shit, man, including your people. Right, so before you get too out the box and on
my thing was though, yeah, you know, a lot of people do weird shit, but you know, my people ain't in the hot seat at the moment, and
yeah, but
I didn't really see the need to put my people or whoever's people in the hot seat when you know the light is on somebody else right now.
But that's the thing, nobody should be in the hot seat. Like
you know, I'm just saying for lack of better words, like you know. People who practice voodoo don't have anything to do with that. I feel like that's like, you know what I'm saying, Luke.
No, I hear what you're saying. A lot of people don't eat at the wet market either. Right? A lot of people ain't running around eating pangolins and fucking bat sandwiches in China. It's not the case.
I ain't say that, but I'm talking about the ones who are. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you did.
But I said it.
Mind you, I've never been to China, so you know.
You said I've been there multiple times.
I've never been to China.
You know, they got McDonald's and Burger King over there too. Everybody ain't flocking to go eat a bat sandwich in that bitch, you know. But that was kind of the point. Like
what are they serving over here?
Huh? What you mean? In terms
what
of
they serving over here? In the restaurant that's on like I don't know what it's like where you from, but over here, you know, we got, you know, it's a Chinese food spot, every corner, big yellow sign, let you know you can come get 4 wings, fried rice, or whatever. If that's what it is, what you think they serving in there?
But somebody brought this. A young lady brought this up in the chat, right? And just to expound on that even more, I brought up Chipotle. Chipotle was giving niggas salmonella. right? Serving up niggas salmonella, they had to close every single Chipotle. Like, we remember that. And that was Chipotle, right? And then you flip to, we couldn't eat Caesar salad a couple months ago because the shit had Dookie in it, right? So
Who salad?
The romaine lettuce, you know, Caesar salad. They make it with romaine lettuce.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
But you hear me though. But you hear me though. That's coming from, you know, just lettuce on the way they farm the lettuce. You have fucking potential to give people salmonella just in that.
But I'm asking you, what are they serving in their restaurants?
Right. So we'll get to that. So
because a lot of their restaurants get shut down. You know, I'm not even sure if
a lot of restaurants
they're not even visited by the people like that.
Bro,
come on, man.
Chipotle gets shut down. That's one of the biggest restaurants in the world, and they had problems with this with sourcing their food and was giving people salmonella.
Right here is open. Right. I mean,
they open now. But like 8 to 6 months, what was it? A year ago, maybe now. Chipotle had a crazy salmonella scare, and they had to shut all that shit down. Right. So to your point about the Chinese food restaurants, because a homegirl brought this up in the comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the hood, right? Because she's like, Chinese people treat black people like shit. No, I'm like, man, black people treat black people like shit. Like, we get into that, but whatever.
But see, I see you be judging. It's like you are justified, but that ain't the question though. It's like
no.
If she's talking about them treating us like shit, I feel like that we should deal with that without using black on black crime.
I'm getting to that. You know,
okay.
So I told her this is probably going to come across as more of the defensive end, but my response to her was like, well, you know, and to your point about what does Chinese food restaurants serve, I mean, they serve chicken and beef. They're not serving, you know, fucking cat. You know how much cat it would take to make a day's worth of chicken fried rice? How many cats you have to cat and chop up and gut? Ain't that much meat on a cat, like to make spare ribs out of. Have you ever seen a cat gutted? His ribs are this big. Like, that shit ain't gonna happen. And the same thing with dogs. Ain't nobody cooking no dog in no Chinese food restaurant. Not in America. Shit ain't gonna happen. Right? Some of those Chinese people are more American than black people is. They're not gonna do that shit. Also, she was talking about the health side of it. Right? Because what you said wings and fried rice. That ain't the only thing they sell.
Absolutely not.
Right? If you really want to keep it a buck, Chinese in certain places, certain cities, the Chinese food in certain neighborhoods, the Chinese food might be the healthiest shit on the block. If you go in there and you order something correct. If you just ordering a bunch of bullshit, I said don't get me wrong. There's Jamaican spots, there's the vegan spots, but I'm saying in certain places it might be Kennedy Fried Chicken or the Chinese spot that has a Buddha vegetable platter for you or some other shit, but you know, that's your choice. If you're gonna get a bacon, egg, and cheese, that's on you. But they definitely got vegetable situations over here for you, right? So that to answer your health question and I hope shit like that. But dealing with relations of Chinese people with black people in America, from my knowledge and from what I've seen traveling all across the country and being in China and going to Africa and in Jamaica, where there's like a interesting kind of Chinese population down in Jamaica, which is interesting. Chinese people all over the world. I mean, everybody not gonna get along. That's just a given. We don't live in a utopia, right? I brought it up just as an example. When I revert to black people, that's because what I know best. That's what we tend to know best is each other, right? So I use us as a model to say, look, why would you expect that person to treat you any better or any worse than the way your own people are treating you? Like, what makes them so different and makes them so special? Nothing. Nothing makes them different and nothing makes them so special. It's just another human being if you choose to approach it like that. Now, once you start to attach because they're from this place, because they speak funny, because they do this, because they do that, right? Then you start to get into the race pieces of it and dealing in kind of myths and different little urban legends and shit like that. Like, they cook cats. Like, make a cat look like a chicken wing. Like, I want to find the chef that's able to make a fucking cat look like a chicken wing.
Chinese restaurants where I'm from, I'm gonna tell you straight up, Chinese restaurants where I'm from, where they serve food out of, it's behind a glass and it's very filthy. I don't know where you're at. I don't know where none of these people in these comments at, but where I'm at is very filthy. The floor very filthy. You understand? It's graffiti all over the walls. I'm talking about most of the joints, not all. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's a lack of respect for the community that you serving food in. they've been in the community like 30+ years. Like, come on, man. I'm just saying, for as far as your post, let's not get too far off what your post was.
I mean, but that's what it's about. Hopefully, these are the conversations that will come up because you got to deal with Chinese people in your neighborhood every day, and that's kind of been the problem, right? People looking at the people that's been in their neighborhood with them for 30 years that probably ain't even from mainland China. They might be from Taiwan or Hong Kong. Never gonna get me wrong. They might be of Chinese descent, but they might not be from China. They might not even know what Wuhan is on a map. Right? Some people weren't even born there, never been there.
Right.
But they in your neighborhood with you every day. So how do you approach them in these times? Right? Do you approach them as your neighbor or do you approach them as the enemy with coronavirus? Because they eating bats in the back of the restaurant. Ain't no bats in the hood.
I would say approach them as your neighbor. Like, I'm definitely not treating nobody no kind of way. You understand what I'm saying? You know, that's why I said I don't think we should get too far left from what the post was. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I get you.
People in the comments, they think we battling and shit. They don't understand we building and all that.
Cool,
like,
man.
You know what I mean?
It's cool. I just look at it like, here's an example of something that we do. It may not be culinary. It may not be from when I say culinary, like from eating something, right? Here's something that we do, that our people do, right? Which looks relatively like the same thing that you are seeing coming out of China. But here's the difference. Everybody don't practice voodoo. It's a dude in the comments who in my comment section right now who's from Benin. Who was like, yeah, that's how the markets look. You got a few people that got the markets and stuff like that. But we don't really rock like that. And we laughing and joking about it because it wasn't meant to have ill intent. Now, you got some people who don't give a fuck about voodoo. Black people who don't know what voodoo is, who don't care about it, who don't think it's real, think it's bullshit, XXYZ. In Africa, who getting upset just off the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they come in like, so what, you shitting on Africa? It's like, you're not even from there. You're not getting upset because it's voodoo or somebody, and that's why I say you don't play with voodoo, and that's why I'm not playing with it, right?
No, I feel you. I just don't feel like you gotta shit on. I don't feel like you gotta shit on one to help the other. But end of the day, right? Regardless of how anybody feel about it, ain't a race thing. You feel me? None of that. Right. I don't want to get lost in none of that rhetoric. But I don't feel like you gotta put down or shun one to. You know what I'm saying? To make the other one feel better.
Right, but here's the difference. You know here's the difference. There's nowhere in that post where I'm shitting.
Especially like you said, if they look like you, not to cut you off.
No, it's good. I get it. It's all good. There's nowhere in that post that you can point to where I shitted on voodoo or shitted on Africa. You can read it verbatim. There's nothing in there of me shitting on Africa or shitting on voodoo.
I mean, I think to have like the position of, but y'all, y'all coming at Chinese people. Well, look at your own people in it. I feel like that was the energy in there. Like
what? It was the energy in there, but that's not shitting on Africa.
Well, to me,
I don't think that I personally don't think that the wet markets are bad. Right? I don't think that they're bad. I don't think that it's like I think it's weird. That's honest. I think the shit is weird. But I don't think it's bad. I think it's their tradition. Right? I've seen people in France eat all kinds of wild shit. They eat snails. That shit's gross. But they eat it. Right? Am I gonna slap the shit out their hand and say, you dirty motherfucker eating bugs? Like, no. Motherfuckers cook up cockroaches, grasshoppers. I done seen dudes eat tarantulas, make a tarantula egg omelet, all kinds of shit, right? It is what it is. Right?
No, I agree with that.
So
King Kofi, I agree with that comment too. Go ahead, I'm listening, brother.
Again, there's nothing in that post that people can point to legitimately without putting their feelings into it that is me belittling voodoo or Africa. It ain't there. So
it has that connotation there a little bit.
No, I mean,
like you said, other people got in your comments and they was upset, so it ain't just me. So,
but people were.
And I'm not saying I was upset.
But people always get upset because they got a history with me where they feel like I'm always caping for other races, but not my own. Right? So I got a history of people saying, Lupe, he not about whenever something comes up. And like I said, those people in the comments are the minority. If you really do the numbers, like, and it's the same people posting up again and again and again and again. The majority of it are folks of all walks and races who are black. Who's like, damn. You know? So my focus is more just
you could have used the French people eating snails example before you use the voodoo example, which is a religion. You understand? So that's like using Islam. That's like using Christianity. So that it take it enough. It's like kind of below the belt to me. And like you just gave all these different examples up here on the live. You could have gave them examples on the post.
But the flip is nobody who practices voodoo is upset. You don't practice voodoo.
I don't practice voodoo.
Okay. I know dudes who practice voodoo for real. They're not upset.
All right.
They'll tell me, how do you think I know about this stuff? Right? I know people who practice voodoo and believe it. Right? It's not something that I'm just pulled out of today and was like, hey, look at this. Like, we really want to have a discussion about voodoo and voodoo and the relationships to dark voodoo versus light voodoo and New Orleans and all of that shit that's in there. I can't go super deep because I'm not an expert on it, but I know more than the average person. I would assume at least the average person that's on my Instagram, obviously, because people had never seen the voodoo markets of West Africa. This your first time ever seeing that picture, right?
The one you posted?
Yes.
Absolutely.
First time you ever heard of that?
Of a voodoo market?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how you was putting it, absolutely.
I'm sure it's the first time a lot of people have ever seen that. That's been a part of African culture for probably 1,000 years.
But so you was talking about blacks in America, right?
Oh, but blacks in America, indeed. Blacks in America, indeed.
So
you want to go down that rabbit hole?
I'm just saying, where the connection? Like, I mean, like, come on, man, you playing?
I'm not playing. Blacks in America tend to.
Where's the connection with the monkeys and all that?
Blacks in America.
It's like you could come on. I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead, give it up.
I hear you. I listen. You a master of words. So I love conversating with words.
Give it up. I'm listening.
Together,
I don't know nothing.
Right? Nah, stop. Don't do that. Don't downplay that. So blacks in America. Certain blacks in America, certain blacks in America don't give a fuck. Let's not get it confused. Certain blacks in America don't give a fuck about Africa. Period. They don't care about that shit. Right? It's not on their radar. It's whatever. But you got there's other black folks in America who really, really do. People like me, right? People who were born into certain traditions coming out of Africa, or as much of the tradition that we could recover and rebuild. Whether it's things like Kwanzaa, whether it's things like African drumming, African cloth, African statues, right? Reading certain literature, etc., to really get into the heart of where we came from, right? Which is a history that we lost, right?
Okay.
I say that because we mixed up. We all mixed up, right? And in that, some people tend to just get the superficial. They just tend to get the kente cloth and the African drum, and they practice Kwanzaa and they know Kuji Jakalia and Umoja, and then they're done. Right? Once you start to get deeply into, we also do this, we also do that. There's also Yoruba, there's also libations, there's also this, there's also that, there's a blah, 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 blah. People tune out. They don't want to hear that shit. And then when you really get into like, niggas was practicing voodoo for like 1,000 years, right? Chopping up monkey feet and doing da-da-da-da-da-da. People tune out, right? So it's like certain people want to embrace and be a part of the Africa that they built in their minds, not Africa as it is, right? All of the mucky muck and the weirdness and the great and the beauty and everything else, it's all mixed in and wrapped together, right? Right. And it's like, if you're going to embrace it and talk about all of it, but don't get super upset or feel triggered when somebody who actually has seen it and done it is presenting you with something new about your culture, right? That you don't particularly like or agree with, or you think is beneath you. Ain't nothing wrong with having a monkey head market. There's nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That shit is great, right? That shows a culmination of people trying to understand the world. And this is what they came up with. This was the chemistry and the biology that they came up with, right? Trying to affect and fight disease the best way that they could. right? Ward off evil spirits, etc., etc., etc. That's not shitting on Africa because people got monkey heads. More so, it's a reaction from the Africans because they thinking like, oh, we got hospitals. So now you using your own modernization to shit on your own shit.
Are the black people walking around in America? Are we Africans? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Culturally?
Culturally, probably not. Nationality wise.
Okay, so but that's what we talk.
Nationality wise, no. Like you're from wherever you from, I'm from where I'm from.
How would you use that post to say something to us if we're not even culturally the same, and you saying we're not the same nationality wise?
Right. That
how would a voodoo post from what's going on in the market in Togo? Why would that apply to a kid in South Central or a kid in Chicago? Why would that apply?
To a certain degree, it probably won't. That's just the honesty. That wasn't what that post was designed for. Now, if we want to talk about designing posts to educate you on Black history and to educate you on your culture, part of it is that. Like part of your culture, Black man walking through South Central is voodoo, it's hoodoo, it's the Yoruba religions, right? For real.
Say that one more time, bro. My bad.
Part of your culture is Yoruba and voodoo and other African religions and spiritual practices, right? Things that you might see, certain dances, right? Certain rites of passage, certain scarifications, right? Certain traditions that you, young Black man walking in South Central, you not finna do that shit. I guarantee you, you're not finna do it. You're not finna let this dude cut these slashes in your face. You might get a tattoo of your homeboy's name or your gang on your face, but it's a whole different thing when homie finna take a knife and cut these manhood scars into your cheek or into your back. Right?
Okay.
You're not finna go into the jungle with nothing for a few weeks and have to defend yourself and bring back a lion or some shit like that.
So are we the same?
What do you mean, are we the same?
Are we Africans? Or the Black people walking around over here in America, are we Africans?
I mean, we're more American than we are anything. Let's not get it confused. We're more American than we are anything.
So then how does the post about a voodoo market in Togo or Benin apply to us? And our treatment of Chinese people, good or bad, how does that apply?
Well, it's reminding you first that you're ignorant of China. But most African Americans don't know shit about China. We don't. We getting this wet market shit from Fox News. A lot of us are, because that's who's pushing that agenda. They pushing that the Chinese Wuhan virus. This is that. It's from them eating this bat meat from some other shit. Da 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 da. Right? But most people on my gram ain't never been to China and they never gone. Right? So they don't know really shit about Chinese culture. I do. Right? On the flip side, most people on my gram, most African Americans, they really don't know nothing about Africa either. Right? They front like they do, they act like they do, but they don't. So here's two people, one person, two cultures that they don't know anything about, trying to point fingers. So when somebody brings to you, hey, here's you so busy thinking that culture is different from your culture, a culture that you don't even understand yourself. So how about I give you two examples? You got one example coming from Fox News and from the media and from some meme on Instagram. Let me give you something from National Geographic. Right? Let me give you something from about a specific thing in Africa that's going on that's comparative. Right? So honestly, before you step out of your body to call the dude who's had the Chinese food restaurant on your block for 30 years before you was even born, he was there working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Before you go out of your body to feel a certain way about him and coronavirus and eating bats. Right? Remember that this here is a part of your legacy as well.
How is that a part of their legacy if we're not the same?
No, it's a part of their legacy because that's where you come from. We're not the same now, but that's where we come from.
You can't just say that that's where, come on, Lupe.
Come on, Lupe, what? Where we going?
You can't just say that that's where you come from for everybody.
That is where we come from.
Africa is made up of a bunch of different like nations, bro. Like,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. So how can you, like, come on, what we doing with that?
But that's where we come from. No matter which nation that you came from, whether it's Central Africa, Southern Africa, the Horn of Africa, the West Coast of Africa, above the Sahara, in the Sahara, like all black people in this country came from Africa at one point or another, in some way or another. You trace your roots back there, right?
So you feel like,
if you really,
I'm not saying that. You saying that. I'm not saying I trace my roots back there, but you know.
I mean, but you don't have a choice. It doesn't matter.
But you're not. So do you feel like you answered the question though?
Your question based on
why you be using what's going on in the Togo market?
Yes.
You feel me?
Yes, it was a vision.
To justify what's going on with black people here.
I'm not.
Who are not African, who are not of a Togo market, who don't practice voodoo. You know what I'm saying? Like
to curb your racism, but also at the same time too to remind you that the restaurants that, like you just said,
why can't you use any examples that we already have? Like if you understand what I'm saying?
I am. I'm giving you the example that you gave me. You going to the Chinese restaurant in your block, on your block, and it's filthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. A lot of blocks.
Right. You walk into Chipotle. It's dookie on the grill, my G. I was at a McDonald's in Harlem. It's like somebody went in the bathroom and just shit all over the walls. Right? So even here, it's some disgusting, nasty shit that takes place in where you are. Take a good look next time you go to the grocery store. Look,
and I know you a samurai nigga too. Don't act like I don't know you a samurai bull too, right? It ain't lost on me that I know you a vicious. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm gonna let you go ahead. Go ahead.
I do shit to people with my hands. So next time you go to the grocery store, right?
Right.
Go to the like the meat section, or like the cheese section, or the where they got the hummus or whatever. Look at the refrigeration units. Some of them shits is filthy than a motherfucker. That's where you grabbing your food. All you seeing is the food, the packaging. Look at the rack.
That shit is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
The restaurant, the restaurants I'm talking about, good brother, is only primarily in the black community.
Nah, not true.
I can speak for where I'm at. I'm speaking for where I'm at.
Yeah.
They be primarily in the black community, serving you from behind a glass, talking to you very rude. You understand? Disrespect, very disrespectful. Not all. It happens though.
Yeah, not all. Not everyone. Right?
But so we're not talking about a Chipotle